So, we are going to be ranking all of the hero talents that I've tested so far, which is conveniently all of the DPS hero talents, but based on how fun they are. We do not care about power this far out from the War Within. We are going to kick things off then with the Dark Ranger. Now, all of the Hunter specs are just super incredibly underwhelming. This is definitely not the worst one. I think you guys can all hazard a guess as to what the worst one is. But Dark Ranger, what are we doing, Blizz? We're giving barb shot procs to BM hunters that just do not care about barb shot procs. Like, yes, it gives us an extra stomp, but kill command is the main damage that we care about. So do not care about that one singular bit for BM. For MM, from what I played of it, it feels like, for one, it's just hard to get Black Arrow weaved into your rotation regardless, especially in your true shot windows. And then you're getting charges of aim shot, which, yeah, at face value sounds great, but it's actually not that great because you're always getting, like, it just means that you're going to overcap on aim shot more, basically. Like, yeah, maybe you get some more damage out of it, but you still want to be weaving in those rapid fires, and then you want to be just like firing off those aim shots back to back to back. So it just feels like there's no room for any more aim shot charges, in my opinion. I also just haven't seen the Shadow Hounds at all. From what I played of Dark Ranger, I literally have not seen those little Shadow Hounds that you spawn. So they need to make those a lot more visually appealing, because that's the thing with this hero spec. It's all based off of Sylvanas Windrunner, right? Like, they could have made this so sick. They could have made it so sick. But instead, you just shoot a puny little black arrow. Yes, I get it that arrows are quite hard to make visually appealing. But if not, make these Shadow Hounds look insane. How sick would that be if we actually had some big old Shadow Hounds attacking the target for us? The one redeeming quality about this, though it's not that necessary anymore, is the smokescreen talent you get, where you get your survival of the fittest every time you press exhilaration, which is on like around a minute and a half cooldown. So that is a redeeming quality, but it is still going to go in the D tier. So that is the Dark Ranger. We're going to move on to Sentinel now, which is definitely probably, yeah, it is my favorite of the hero talents for the Hunter, which is not saying much. When you fire out that Lunar Owl, or whatever it's called, I can't remember what the Lunar Storm, is that what the proc is called? That actually looks sick. You send the owl and then it just like barrages everything in sight pretty much. That is cool. Apart from that, it is super passive though, but it's a nice idea. You get a lot of burst out of it, right? But the biggest redeeming quality for this hero talent, in my opinion, is the extra cooldown reduction on your true shot. True shot already has cooldown reduction from calling the shot, so getting the extra 15 seconds, I think it is, on top of the already calling the shots cooldown reduction, you're getting your true shot back very, very quick, which feels lovely jubbly. So we're going to put the Sentinel Hunter in the C tier then, just above the Dark Ranger, and also the last of the hero talents for the Hunter, which is the Pack Leader. Possibly the worst hero talent in the game, I would argue. It is simple, as somebody called me out in my YouTube comments the other day. They're like, bro, it's not that bad to just have a simple and completely passive hero talent. Yes, it is. It can be passive and simple, but it can't be boring at the same time, you know? The potential that they had with the Pack Leader Hunter, merging Beast Mastery and Survival, both of the Hunter specs that love pets, the potential they had there was insane, and they just completely flopped it. What, you get extra damage on your kill commands? Oh, great, brilliant. Extra damage on your Mongoose Bites? Oh yeah, brilliant, thank you. Cheers, Blizzard. So yeah, by far the worst hero talent in the game right now. It is going at the bottom of D tier. Okay, so now let's move on to some more fun hero talents then. So we have the Hellcaller for Warlocks. Wither is actually quite a cool button. I like what it does for Destro in turning your one dot into an instant dot. I like that for spreading your dots out, though from what I've played of it, I am still playing Cataclysm. And for AF, it feels super nice and works really well with the Absolute Corruption talent, where you just get permanent withers, basically. They always reduce themselves down to one, constantly build up. You just set and forget. It's beautiful. I'm even more of a fan of the Malevolence cooldown, though. Getting an extra button to press, yes, it's a bit more extra button bloat, but getting 15% haste, mwah, that is chef's kiss. That is beautiful, especially for a class that scales so well with haste as well. But yeah, Malevolence is a super fun cooldown, super nice to add that onto a hero talent. Other than that, it is a pretty passive hero talent, so I'm not going to be rating it too highly. It is overtuned right now, but like I said, we don't really care about power. So for the Hellcaller Warlock, I am going to be placing this bad boy in the B tier. Okay, so, I mean, I'm not going to jump the gun right now, but this is probably my favorite hero talent right now. It is the Diabolist hero talent for the Warlock. This is the perfect example of what a hero talent should look, feel, and play like. Summoning some of the most powerful demons in the game as a Warlock. That is literally something that Warlocks in the past have dreamed of and can only have dreamed of, but now they are able to play it. So that is sick. Not only that, it also slightly alters your rotation as well. You get the extra soul shard generation, you get your ruination procs. I cannot remember if they consume soul shards because they replace your spenders, but regardless, cooling down that massive ruination, seeing the Pit Lord just before, and then just decimating everything in sight, critting for like over a mil on everything. How sick is that? Yeah, I mean, this hero talent is visually, like, I don't think it's second to anything in the game. So this is going straight at the top of the S tier, and it may well stay there for the rest of this tier list. We will have to see. Then we have the last of the hero talents for the Warlock, which is the Soul Harvester. Now, this is a cool idea thematically, having like your demonic soul just nuke the target. And when I first tested this, I don't think they actually had the visual in, but now you get the visual proccing, which is like a big demon that like comes on the back of you. Ah, he jumps on the back of you, or spawns on the back of you. There we go. That's what we're looking for. But he does it super frequently because this is always proccing. So you are constantly summoning this demon, and it just looks sick. So that carries the hero talent a lot, because apart from that, it is very, very much passive, which is not ideal. But you do also get some frequent procs through your rotation as well passively. You get an extra chance on Demonic Cause, and you also get extra Nightfall procs, which is a nice touch at the end there. So the Soul Harvester Warlock, we are going to whack in the top of C for now, I think. Okay, sticking with the more favored of the hero talents for me then, we're going to jump straight to the mages. We're going to start with the Frostfire, which did feature in my best of the hero talents video, and for good reason. This hero talent feels really nice, specifically on fire, because you're getting those Frostfire Bolt, and that becomes instant cast. It also explodes for damage, but the biggest part of it is the fact that it becomes instant cast and it always crits. This is super nice for your combustion window, because you're able to get instant full stacks of your empowerment through your Frostfire mastery. And then also outside of your combustion, you can now chain even more instant cast back-to-back guaranteed crits, which one, reduces the cooldown on your combustion even quicker through your Kindling talent, but then it also gets you back into Sun King's Blessing combustion quicker. So that gameplay loop from just having that one ability alone is a big old W. Frostfire also embodies the thematics really well. Calling down meteors or comet storms, depending on what spec you're in, is just turbo sick. And also, even more so, bridges the gap. A big thing for fire here, sorry, I'm mainly going to be talking about fire, but outside of your combustion windows, we're used to tank damage, right? But now you get these comet storms that you're calling down, ice novas as well. You actually do mega burst outside of your combustion too, so loving that. Yeah, generally I am loving the Frostfire Mage. We're also going to whack the Frostfire Mage in the S tier. Right, next for the Mage, we will move on to the Spellslinger. Now, at first, reading through this and also playing with this at first, I was really underwhelmed by this. Not only by the gameplay, because it's almost purely passive, you're just getting extra damage through the splinters that you apply, but also the visual feedback wasn't amazing, because I tested this in Frost at first, and it just kind of looks like extra icicles that are flying at the target, and you kind of have to look for them to see them. But then I found one very, very important talent that completely carries this hero talent, because otherwise it would be on the lower rankings, and that is Spellfrost Teachings. Now, this has just been nerfed in the most recent patch notes, so we'll have to see how it plays going forward. But for now, getting resets of your Frozen Orb in Frost Mage spec, and then also increasing the damage of your Frozen Orb, sorry, that is just wild. I think I got like 6 or 7 resets in an opener that I did on Training Dummies. That was one of the best feelings I've ever had. And then for Arcane, whenever a Splinter does direct damage, it just instantly fires out an Arcane Orb for you, which is amazing because they kind of know that we were going to be overcapping on our Arcane Orb charges anyway with how Arcane plays right now. But you can literally just be like mid-cast of an Arcane Missiles, mid-cast of an Arcane Blast, and just fire out an Arcane Orb for free. You haven't even done anything. That's generating you 4 Arcane charges, which you dump with a Barrage, which then can dump another Arcane Orb, and then you can just dump another Barrage. That gameplay loop is some of the best in the game as well. So yeah, that talent specifically hard carries this hero talent. Like, it's not even a capstone, it's just a random talent node on the side. So I am going to be putting the Spellslinger in the A tier. I do prefer Frostfire, but Spellslinger is not far behind. The only reason I wouldn't put it higher is because that is the only thing carrying it right now. So we'll finish with Sunfury for Mage, because that's the last one that we've got left. In Fire, this actually allows you to switch up your build a little bit from what I've seen. You can now play Unleashed Destruction, no, Unleashed something instead of SKB basically. So you don't have to play SKB anymore, and you get extra CDR on your combustion while you're inside your combustion. So that, coupled with Kindling, you get a super nice short cooldown on combustion. You also just passively are granted haste through your rotation when playing Sunfury. I think that's always a nice touch. Jumping into your Arcane Surge or Combustion summons the Phoenix. That looks amazing when you summon that. That is a beautiful looking Phoenix. And then throughout your rotation, you're also constantly cooling down these like storms of meteorites as well, both in Arcane and Fire. Unbelievable. Love that. Then at the end of your cooldowns, you get basically hypothermia for both of the specs, right? You're just able to constantly, well, I mean, it's not constant anymore, but fire out those Pyroblasts back to back. Love that. And is it barrages that you can fire out? Sorry, you get the clear casting procs. That's right. So then you get you can just spam Arcane Missiles, which is lovely. So with Sunfury, I'm going to place it in the top of the B tier. It is super visual, like the visual feedback is amazing that you get from this spec. And there are some nice interactions with the spec as well. Next, we're going to move on to the Shadow Priest. We're going to start with a Void Weaver because that is everybody's favorite. Somehow they made the Void Weaver Shadow Priest look even cooler than Shadow Priest was already. I don't know how they did that, but they've managed to do it. So with the Void Weaver, you are tying your whole hero talent to a 30-second cooldown with your Void Torrent, which, by the way, can be cast on the move. Amazing change that is. That is unreal because you're seeing your hero talent perform like so quickly. And then also there are mechanics that are involved with the hero talent. You want to dump all of your Devouring Plagues into your Entropic Rift window so that deals even more damage, grows in size, hits more mobs. And then you can also extend the duration of your Entropic Rift with your Void Blast that you're casting. Now, I do wish that you could extend it even more because that would allow for more flair from better players. Speaking of Mind Blast, that gets upgraded to your Void Blast, which, for one, they've actually iterated on the visual of that as well. So that looks even cooler than before. And also, you get some really nice audio feedback when you're casting your Void Blast as well. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's actually Pog. A big change for me that I am in love with is the fact that your Mindbender now is replaced with a Void Wraith. Because Mindbender was the most underwhelming, horrible cooldown to press before. It summons this cringe little beast that nobody cares about and just generates you some extra insanity. Now, I wouldn't be so harsh on that if it looked like a Void Wraith, and now it does. So that's a big dub right there. So, with all that being said, the Void Weaver is going to go in the S tier. I think I'm even going to place it above the Frostfire Mage. I just love the interaction inside after your Void Torrent window, inside your Entropic Rift window, where you actually have your gameplay actually affects how your hero talent performs. Right, okay, moving on to the other hero talent for the Shadow Priest then. We have the Archon. I mean, it's always going to be overshadowed, get it, by the Void Weaver. There's no coming close to that hero talent. It's definitely the more boring of the two, and I think a lot of Shadow Priests will be sad if they have to play Archon over Void Weaver. I know I definitely would be. That being said, it is cool to be firing out these constant halos that just fire out and then retract back into you and fire out again. The extra 10% haste you get from Power Infusion is, I mean, that is a welcomed addition as well, don't get me wrong. But I do wish that Halo generated more insanity for each hit on each mob, because then you would just be swimming in insanity, especially on AoE. That would feel super nice. And it would also, I think, it would have more of an impact on your single target as well, because Halo, I mean, it's by nature, it's more of an AoE spell, right? So getting that extra insanity gen for single target would just be a nice addition. For the Archon, I'm going to put it in front of Sentinel, The extra 10% haste you get for power infusion is super nice, and the visuals from sending out those constant halos, lovely stuff as well. That would be sick if they made the Archon Shadow Priest like the icon and you were half holy and half shadow. Oh, I like that idea. That's priest done. Now we're going to move on to the balanced druid. We'll start with Keeper of the Grove, which is the worst of the two by quite a mile. Your treants are doing negative damage almost. They are almost healing the mobs, which would, I mean, thematically fit quite well, right? But even with the extra 200% damage that you can give them through the talent, they are still just doing next to nothing. So that is a super feels bad, especially because you even have to take the treant's talent in your spec tree for balance. That is horrible. The fact that you actually have to go out of your way to grab this talent and then it does nothing with extra talents baked on top of it, no bueno. But yeah, because they're doing no damage and the treants are only summoned every 45 seconds, you don't really notice that you've got hero talents active. In my opinion, this Keeper of the Grove hero talent should greatly reduce the cooldown of these treants at the cost of their taunt, so you can't obviously just abuse them in Mythic Plus. Yeah, I just basically want to see them more and actually feel like a Keeper of the Grove. That would be nice. And then the other thing is, it makes sense for Resto Druid, but it makes zero sense for Balanced Druid. They apply Moonfires, but as a Boomy, you're going to be applying all of your Moonfires anyway, because that directly affects your Mastery, and Moonfire just does big damage anyway. So what they should do instead is the treant should apply a third dot to proc your Waning Twilight. Whether it's Stellar Flare or whether it's Wild Mushroom, which would fit thematically more so, I don't care. But then at least I feel like I'm getting some interaction out of my hero talent with my gameplay, right? So yeah, that is my thoughts for the Keeper of the Grove. Honestly, this hero talent right here is kind of closing in to Pack Leader. It is down bad for me right now. So we're going to put that in the D tier for down bad. Next, we will move on to Elun's Chosen. I like the idea that they have with this. I just don't think that they've executed it well, unfortunately. What you can do is you can sort of talent into a Fury of Elun build or a Moons build. With the Fury of Elun, you can get your Fury of Elun down to like a 25-second cooldown, which is actually quite satisfying, especially because the amount of AP gen that you can gain from it. Your Moonfires can also apply Fury of Elun, so that's even more AP gen. I just wish, and I think most Elun's Chosen's Balanced Druids would wish this as well, is just constantly have these Fury of Eluns out, just generating massive amounts of AP that we can dump into Star Surges and Star Falls, because then that applies for both single target and AoE. Then you have the Moons build. You don't really notice the cooldown reduction for the Moons, but there is that kind of catch-22 where if they give you too much cooldown reduction on the Moons, you're not going to be pressing anything else but your Moons in AoE specifically, when you want to be starfiring. The Moons build does have a nice addition to it where you get these minor moons that also follow your moons. When you call your full moon, you get 2 minor moons that instantly follow it. That looks super dope. Did I just say super dope? Oh no. I feel like this should be just a thing for the whole of the Elun's Chosen. It shouldn't just be if you're spec'd into or using your moon's abilities. I feel like the minor moon should just always be proccing. So yeah, Elun's Chosen is definitely better than Keeper of the Grove. And with a few different changes here and there, it could honestly be one of my more favored hero talents. For now, I am going to put it in the C tier though. I really like the cooldown reduction on Fury of Elun. I just think they can make it even more impactful. I'm going to put this in front of Soul Harvester because it actually does affect my gameplay. Because now we're going to move on to the Chamois hero talents, okay? And I know it's a hot topic right now. I know Chamois are down bad. We'll start on a positive note because I actually am pleasantly surprised by Stormbringer. I'm a big fan of it. You get some stacking haste through your rotation as well. Like I was saying for the Mage earlier, that's always a great addition to any hero talent or any hero or any talents in general. And you also get Stormkeeper every 50 seconds, I'm pretty sure. They might have changed that recently, but I can't imagine too much. But then obviously the main thing that Stormbringer is built around is your Tempest. And when you press your Tempest, it feels meaty, for lack of a better word. It is exactly how a hero talent button should feel like when you press it. It does feel slightly weird to press in AoE because it replaces your Lightning Bolt. So obviously normally you'd be spamming your Chain Lightning. So to press your Tempest, which is your Lightning Bolt keybind in AoE, it's just going to take a little bit of getting used to, and it's something that threw me off at first. But then once you do press your Tempest, you're basically, it's not quite 3 free Stormkeepers, but it's good enough. You're getting 3 instant chain lightnings off of the back of that if you're talented into it. That is the highlight of the hero talent for me, is being able to just spam out these chain lightnings back to back to back. And that just feels even better inside enhancement, because with the Storm build, I need to compose my thoughts here, because it perfectly embodies what a Stormbringer should feel like. Like, you feel like a Stormbringer, whatever that is meant to feel like. You just do. You're getting your 3 instant chain lightnings from your Tempest. You then can spend 10 stacks of Maelstrom weapon on an instant chain lightning. So that's 4 back to back. With your Storm Strikes, you can proc your Ascendants, which then, with the Thorum's Invocation, you don't even have to spend your chain lightnings. Whenever you hit 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon, you are instantly chucking out your chain lightnings. Like, the amount of chain lightning is just absurd. But that's not all. The chain lightning that you're then throwing out can be refunded via another talent. I can't remember exactly what it's called. So you can instantly just fire off these, and like, all you're doing, your whole rotation is just firing out chain lightning. And we all know how insane chain lightning looks. I had a lot of fun testing out this hero spec, so I am going to be placing the Stormbringer in the top of the A tier. I mean, honestly, it could creep into the S tier. I'm debating putting it in there. I like Farseer as well. This actually pigeonholes you more so into the fire build, especially for elemental. The ancestors do look sick. They look great, and you're spawning a lot of them frequently through your rotation. One thing that's drawing this hero talent back for me is ancestral swiftness. Pretty just underwhelming button. It's nice that it summons an ancestor. It's nice that you guarantee get an ancestor from that, but it makes your next cast instant. When playing the fire build for elemental, you're already constantly having instant cast lava burst, so hopefully it doesn't munch that proc. It might not be working properly right now. And then it also just increases the damage by 10%. Like, this is where numbers start to come in, right? I feel like that should be 100%. 10%, nobody cares for that. You're not going to notice it. It just doesn't feel impactful at all. So, and as far as the ancestors go, the only thing I will say for them, I wish that they copied your abilities. So if you're casting a chain lightning, I want my ancestor to cast chain lightning as well, because that obviously means there's multiple mobs. Or even a lava beam. Imagine I proc Ascendants and then my ancestor starts firing out lava beams as well. That would be unreal. So I feel like Blizzard are missing a trick there, and that's what they should do. It's going to go in B tier. I'm just debating where we're going to go with the B tier. Yeah, I mean, let's not look into the tiers too much. If they're in the B tier, they're in the B tier. Now, I feel like Blizzard have been brave with Totemic. Totemic gives you 3 extra buffs that you want to consume on top of the already, is convoluted the right word, rotation for enhance, where there is just so much going on, so many procs, so many maintenance buffs. The Totemic buffs are relatively passive, so that's the only save that I can kind of give Blizzard for it. But I just don't feel like Enhance specifically needed any more buffs to keep track of. The only other thing I don't like is Enhancement seems to have just gotten rid of Wind Fury Totem. I don't know if they were planning this and they were just like, yeah, sod it, we're just going to run with an extra totem anyway. But I just don't like the idea of having to carry around and babysit a totem from pack to pack. Yeah, thematically, Totemic is sick, don't get me wrong. It plays perfectly into the Shaman fantasy, right? But like I'm saying, I'm being very careful here, because it might just be me that isn't a fan of totems in general. So get rid of Shaman weapon buffs, have your totems be your weapons, and you just swing totems around like a fucking madman. I like it. I actually love that. Yes, let's put that. It's going to go in the B tier. We are going to put that, I think, at the bottom, just because I'm a bit wary and scared of how much it's going to impact Enhance's rotation, and it might make it even scarier than it already is. Let's move on to the Death Knight. Now, I think overall, Death Knight is kind of winning with the hero talents. We'll start with Rider of the Apocalypse. Now, I'm going to completely contradict myself, because I just want to get this off the bat, and then we'll talk about how sick it is. I think Rider of the Apocalypse has been quite overrated by the community. It doesn't really impact your rotation at all, I feel like. You get the Death and Decays from Mograine, but that is the best and maybe the only impact on your gameplay. But that's my only qualm with it. Let's move on to the sick stuff then. Obviously, this is probably the coolest hero talent in the game. I mean, it's up there with the Diabolist for sure. Yeah, summoning the 4 Horsemen as a Death Knight. Holy... what a hero talent that is. And this is why people are rating it so much, because it just carries it completely. Like, it could do nothing, and summoning the 4 Horsemen, especially guaranteed inside your cooldowns, is the biggest W that a Death Knight could ask for. I can't talk about Rider of the Apocalypse without mentioning the Death Charger. So now Death Knights actually have quite a lot of mobility. I would argue that their mobility is it's definitely not the worst anymore, that's for sure. Riding around on the Death Charger, the Death Charger looks unbelievable itself. That thing looks so cool. And for you guys that enjoy outdoor content, you can permanently mount this Death Charger in combat. Wow. I do hope that Fury of the Horseman is the play, because I would rather extend the duration and see more of my horsemen than just have them do more damage. So yeah, that's the last hope for me. So Rider of the Apocalypse, I'm not actually going to put in the S tier. I'm sorry. Don't hate me. I'm going to put it at the top of A though, I think. Right, next we'll move on to Sandlane then for the Death Knight. Now, when I first read about the Blood Beast, I thought this was going to be a puny little looking Shadow Fiend thing that you barely even noticed. Then that Blood Beast rocked up and I was like, holy moly, that guy looks sick. Again, plays into the thematics of Unholy perfectly. And then not only do you have this Blood Beast attacking, but when it dies, it explodes and deals damage to everything around it. How cool is that, man? For the Unholy DK, you just couldn't write anything better. Summoning my ex-wife. Oh, no. And then you get your Scourge Strike turning into Vampiric Strike, again granting you haste. We've talked about this many a time. Love it when rotations are just passively granting me haste, speeding up my rotation, making everything flow more fluidly. But when you do have your Vampiric Strike available, it's like you literally do not want to press anything else. So when you have cooldowns coming up like your Apocalypse, it feels bad almost to press that, because you want to be spamming your Vampiric Strike instead. Also, if you're playing the disease build for Unholy and you're playing Super Strain, where you apply all 3 diseases, your Vampiric Strike extends your Virulent Plague, but doesn't extend your Blood Plague or your Frost Fever. So regardless, you're going to be reapplying your Virulent Plague anyway to apply all 3 of your dots. So that talent kind of feels just weird at the moment. It should be reapplying or extending, all of your dots, not just your Virulent Plague, because otherwise, yeah, it's just completely irrelevant. But yeah, just overall, the Sandlane hero talents just feel super impactful on your gameplay. So I'm going to rank the Sandlane pretty highly as well. I'm actually going to go with another A tier for the DK. It's going to go towards the bottom. Actually, I think I'm going to place it in front of Spellslinger. Spellslinger is a lot of fun, but it's one talent that's propping up. Sandlane overall, the whole kind of hero talent itself plays really nicely and impacts your gameplay a lot. Right, last up for the Death Knights then, we have the Frost Deathbringer. The visuals are actually sick when it comes to this hero talent right here. When you get those extermination procs and you see that scythe smack down on them and then scythe through them as well. Great visual feedback. It is a shame that you only see or get to interact with your hero talents every minute. You can interact with them every 30 seconds with a cooldown, though I do think the choice node of that, you'll probably go for the other one where you're getting 2 exterminates and then also getting a chance to apply more Reaper's Marks to the target, which then means that you can exterminate even more. I've seen at least 4 scythes back to back from Obliterates, and that feeling was just like something not from this planet. It was so cool and did a lot of damage as well. So yeah, that was good stuff. Yeah, I mean, outside of the scythe though, it is a very passive hero talent, isn't it? Like your rhymes are doing extra shadow damage, and you're sending out more shadow frost damage passively as well. So that is going to hold it back for sure. Like, I'm not going to place this one too highly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, apart from that, not much is really going on, is it? So I'm going to put Deathbringer in the B tier. There's probably going to be a few B tiers. I'm going to whack it behind Totemic. Right, I did forget about Feral, much like Blizzard sometimes forget about Feral. So let's whack that in now. I do actually like, with the Druid of the Claw, you get the procs of Ravage. With the new rotation, you're spamming Ferocious Bite regardless of single target or AoE to do your AoE damage through Rampant Ferocity, but this now can transform into a Ravage as well that applies a Dreadful Wound, which does a lot of damage as a dot, and you can actually extend this dot by... It's not much. I think, is it 6 seconds that you can extend the duration by? And it is purely passive as well. Like, it's just through spending energy. So it's not like you can try and outplay it and extend it even more by good gameplay. It's just probably going to happen regardless. So there's not much interaction there. Ravage does snapshot Tiger's Fury. So that's a nice little added bonus for the Feral Druid. Well, I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe the general opinion is people don't like snapshotting, but it makes sense for Feral. Feral is one of the specs that still does snapshot, and it adds that element of flair for the better Feral Druids to kind of distance themselves from the less better players. I want to say it as nicely as I can, you know? This hero talent does also give the cat some extra tankiness. There we go. We got there in the end. After swapping into bear form, you then retain your armor and your health for a few seconds after shifting back into cat form. So that means that you can swap out just before a like devastating mechanic, swap back into cat form, and you're still going to live it while doing DPS. You don't have to sit bear form for the whole AoE mechanic, which is going to be nice. And then finally, your Ravage does have an increased chance to proc during your cooldowns. That's nice. It makes the cooldown feel more impactful. So for the Druid of the Claw, Feral Druid, I am going to whack this in the B tier. Again, it's nothing to write home about, but it also does add a little bit of substance to the spec as well. So we're going to go bottom of B. Yeah, bottom of B for the Druid of the Claw. I think the problem, and what we'll talk about with Wildstalker now as well, I think what Feral suffers from is it almost feels like these hero talents for Feral were made for Guardian and Resto, and then Feral is just kind of a byproduct of that, because Wildstalker is almost purely passive, super boring. Thorns have nothing really to do with Ferals. What does Feral care about? Exposing thorns or growing thorns, sorry, on a target. So yeah, I mean, there's really not much to say about Wildstalker. Yeah, I'm going to put Wildstalker in the D tier as well. I'm going to put it even below Dark Ranger, I believe. The Slayer is up next. Now, through your rotation, you're passively applying Marked for Execution to your target, and then when you execute, you're gaining stacks of Imminent Demise. Well, I don't know if it actually speeds it up or extends the duration of your Bladestorm, because basically it just makes your Bladestorm hit 3 additional times. I'm pretty sure that it speeds it up, because when you press Bladestorm with 3 stacks of this Imminent Demise, my god, you literally feel like a Beyblade just churning through everything around you. But the only issue I do have with it is if Bladestorm's on cooldown and you get 3 stacks of Imminent Demise quite early on into its cooldown, it then feels bad that you can't use those stacks for another, 30, 40 seconds until you get your Bladestorm back. And then you're just going to be overcapping on your Imminent Demise stack. So not a fan of that part of it. But regardless, accelerating your Bladestorm is ridiculously fun. You have a Flurry of Steel proc where your Bloodthirst, and it feels like most of your rotation for arms procs this Flurry of Steel, which is basically like a pseudo Bladestorm. It doesn't even count as an ability, it just passively happens, but the animation is super cool. And I feel like if they allowed you to stack up your Marked for Execution on multiple targets, that would be awesome. Because then you can cycle through the different targets with your Marked for Execution on, execute them, and then just constantly reduce the cooldown of your Bladestorm. Because if you execute a target, it's reducing the cooldown of your Bladestorm by 5 seconds. So that, coupled with the anger management that you get, Bladestorm does come back very, very quickly. I'm going to put it in the B tier, but I think we're going to go with a higher B tier for this one. Above Hellcaller, and above Farseer, and above Sunfury. I like the Slayer Warrior. I'm not a huge fan of the execute profile of it, but I guess it's the easiest way to tie the 2 specs together, right? That brings me on to Mountain Thane. So this is for the Fury Warrior. I really do enjoy this because it is so visually appealing. Sending out those Thunder Blasts is just ridiculous. Though I do feel they missed a trick, and this should be for arms, because Thunderclap is just in the arms rotation regardless. But they have transitioned it quite well into Fury. It now also gives you the 4 cleave attacks from that your Whirlwind would normally give you. So now you no longer need to press your Whirlwind, because I think Blizzard realized how GCD locked the Fury Warrior is. Thunderblast feels so impactful when you press it. Like, you literally are shocking the world when you press that button. You can get a guaranteed proc of it every time you enter your Recklessness. So that feels really sick, going straight into your Recklessness, generating massive rage with your Thunder Blast, and generating 4 stacks of your Whirlwind, cleaving on everything. It just sets up the rotation perfectly. The only thing that I do wish, with Fury Warrior, there's a talent called Unbridled Ferocity where you can proc your Recklessness. If that Recklessness always granted you a charge of Thunder Blast as well, I think that would be amazing for the spec, because then you would just like have that constant feeling of getting those Thunder Blasts and just firing those out and nuking all the mobs around you. Finally, we're on to the biggest and best of the hero talents for the warrior. It is the Colossus Warrior. Wow. What a button Demolish is. This encapsulates what an arms warrior should feel like completely. You have those two quick strikes that you do at the start. They pump themselves. Then when you're charging up that last strike and actually like, I feel like you hit the mob, but it feels like you're just charging a strike over your shoulder and slamming the ground. It almost feels like you're doing that in real life and like actually charging up that last bit of your Demolish. And then you literally are just demolishing everything. The crits I've seen, I think I've seen like a 4 mil crit on the AoE part of that button. It is absurd. Yeah, it feels like a big cooldown in itself, which is everything that it should feel like. And you can get cooldown reduction on it from the rest of the hero talents itself. So you're constantly getting this big part of your rotation up. It's perfect. That's all I can describe it as. I love Colossus Arms, and it's going straight in the A tier for me. I think it's top of A tier for me. I am in love with this hero talent. We now have the Monk. So we're going to start with Conduit of the Celestials. So the only problem I do have with it is the channeled ability. Windwalker did not need another channeled ability. They have their Fist of Fury. I guess they just make it instant cast, right? The only saving grace that it has with that is the Conduit of the Celestials does actually increase the speed at which you channel your Fist of Fury. The part that I care about is summoning the 4 Celestials. That is every monk's dream, right? To have Zwen around you, Chi-Ji, Yulon, and Nizao all at the same time. So that is a super cool part, and honestly the biggest part of the hero talent for me that I'm in love with. The second part of it that I am a huge fan of is, I think it's called Zwen's Guidance. So with the Windwalker rework, you can now stack up your Teachings of the Monastery up to 8 stacks, which basically means in one blackout kick, you're going to be kicking 8 times. With Zwen's Guidance, you have a chance to refund every single stack of your Teachings of the Monastery whenever you blackout kick. So you can literally blackout kick. You're going to have to press another button for your hit combo, but then blackout kick again with the 8 stacks if you get lucky with that proc. That is a total of 48 kicks in 2 button presses. How can you not be in love with that? Honestly, I think that is my favorite part of this hero talent. And then going back to the Celestials that you summon, each of them has a different interaction with your rotation. Great for the gameplay. Feels impactful when you press your Celestial Conduit button. And the biggest W from that is the fact that your Fist of Fury channels insanely fast when you get that proc. Conduit of the Celestials is going in the top of the A tier as well. Oh, do I put it in front of Colossus? It's the channel that holds it back. But apart from that, I love this hero talent. I think I'm going to keep it at the top of A. Sorry, Colossus. You are good fun as well. Now, unfortunately, that is where the fun stopped for the Windwalker Monk, because Shadow Pan is also down bad. This could be so sick. I would love the idea of being a Shadow Pan Windwalker Monk. Just fantasy-wise, I think that sounds sick, and I hate the class fantasy of Monk. But unfortunately, they just completely butchered this spec. Everything is completely passive about the rotation. It's way too much energy to actually get the procs of your Flurry Strike, so it just feels like they're few and far in between, which is, I mean, with a passive hero talent, you want to be seeing it a lot, at least a visual, right? So yeah, Shadow Pan's going straight down in the D tier as well. That's for sure. Is it worse than Keeper of the Grove? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's down there with Pack Leader, honestly. Oh no. And keeping of the theme of dog hero talents, we have the Rogues. So we're going to start with the Fatebound Rogue. Why is Rogue doing cosmic damage? Don't get it. Doesn't make any sense. The Capstone is a 7% agility proc, and it's such a small chance to proc it as well. We don't even care to proc it because it doesn't. You don't even notice that it procs unless you're specifically looking out for some slightly bigger numbers. You're not going to notice a 7% agility gain. It's just L's all around for the Rogue, I'm afraid. It's just, I don't even feel like I have hero talents enabled when I'm playing the Rogue, unfortunately. So Fatebound is going to go in the dumpster tier as well. I'm honestly even tempted to put this behind Pack Leader and Shadow Pan. I'm definitely putting it behind Shadow Pan. I just don't care. Like, you don't notice during your rotation, oh, have I flipped tails again? Oh, have I flipped heads for the 3rd time in a row? No, nobody cares. Nobody's looking out for it. Change it immediately. Trickster Rogue. No surprises, it's going to be a D tier spec. For whatever reason, they started off with this hero talent as trying to make us use Feint as a combo point generator. Yes, you heard that correctly. They've got rid of that because they realized what tomfoolery they were up to, but they are still keeping with the tomfoolery by trying to make us use Distract in our opener to do extra damage. Your guess is as good as mine. You can talent into Tricks of the Trade being a 1 hour long buff. That's a nice quality of life change for sure. I don't think you're going to take that because I think the choice node, the other one, is probably just better. Trickster does also seem to force you into Killing Spree for Outlaw, which personally I'm completely fine with. I love Killing Spree, and I think most rogue players do love Killing Spree. So I actually like the fact that it's forcing you into that hero talent, into that talent with this hero talent, because otherwise, when was the last time we saw Killing Spree played? I'm not too sure, but yeah, that's an ability that I've been missing pressing for sure. Then you have your coup de grace proc, should be Death from Above, but it's coup de grace. This locks you out from the rest of your rotation on a GCD locked class, which is just no bueno. Outlaw needs to be like constantly mashing their buttons, right? Being locked out for even half a second too long from your coup de grace is just so devastating to your rotation. It feels horrible. It would feel slightly cooler if you jumped yourself up into the air and struck with the Death from Above, but that's not happening right now. I think the Trickster Rogue, for me, it's at least more impactful than the Fatebound Rogue. Fatebound is completely passive, right? And we don't care for any of the benefits from it. It's just an extra agility increase. At least Trickster has some interactions and they've tried with it, okay? So I'm gonna whack this above Shadowpan, but below Keeper of the Grove. Then lastly, we have the Deathstalker Rogue. Now, I want to make it clear, I am no expert for Assassination or Subtlety. These are the two specs in the game that I pretty much have very, very little idea of how to play. That being said, I know a base of how the Assassination Rogue plays, and you want to be pressing Garrote in your stealth windows and spreading those Garrotes, because that's most of your damage. So why is the Deathstalker Rogue trying to make me press Ambush in these stealth windows to apply my Deathstalker's mark? Makes zero sense and just is so counterintuitive to everything that the Assassination Rogue has been doing. All of the talent nodes in this hero tree are pretty much passive. You deal some extra plague damage, poison damage, maybe some shadow damage here and there. I can't really remember. That's how boring it is. And it also seems like there's not really any AoE interactions from at least the main talent points in this hero talent. So I don't know if this is just meant to be a raid hero talent. I feel like that shouldn't be a thing. It should be working and viable in all scenarios. So Deathstalker for me, I think, is even worse than Fatebound. So I'm going to put that down here. Rogue needs help, man. Rogue needs more than help. It needs God. Right, let's get back into some more of the fun ones then. So let's do Retribution Paladin now. We'll start with the Templar. And I love that Wake is replaced by the hero talent, because this cuts down on the button bloat that could be present, but it also, with the strength, flashiness, and all that jazz of your Hammer of Light ability, it feels like a completely different button press when you do press your Hammer of Light. This obviously means that you can use it every 30 seconds, because Wake of Ashes is on such a short cooldown now, but that's not where it stops. You also, every 60 Empyrean Hammers that you cool down, can then use Hammer of Light as well, for free, at the cost of no holy power, so you can go straight from a Hammer of Light, straight into a Divine Storm for immense cleave damage. It's turbo sick when that procs, especially if you've just used your Wake of Ashes Hammer of Light, then you get the 60 Empyrean Hammers proc and use your Hammer of Light again, straight into a Divine Storm. Wow, that is a chain of a rotation. When you press your Hammer of Light as well, I've talked about how flashy it is, but I think the audio feedback you gain from it as well, it literally feels like you are crushing a hammer through the floor and just like devastating everything in sight pretty much. So yeah, it's the highlight of your rotation pretty much. You can also extend your Shake the Heavens buff, which means good players, they can add some more flair, they can separate themselves from the rest of the players, show that they're the better players by extending their Shake the Heavens, cooling down even more Empyrean Hammers, getting more Hammer of Light procs. It just all feeds into each other so nicely. So the Templar Retribution Paladin, it's a strong A tier for me. It's going to be up there with these boys up here. We'll go with Templar in front of Colossus. There we go. High A at least, right? Doesn't matter exactly where it's placed, but it's a high A spec for sure. Then we have Herald of the Sun. Disclaimer, I haven't played too much of this hero talent. I've just been in love with Templar, so I've been spending all of my time on that. Again, this one is tied to Wake of Ashes. 30-second cooldown. Nice to have constant access to your hero talents. What I do love about this hero talent, Divine Purpose might be my favorite interaction in the Rep Paladin or the Paladin's toolkit in general. I only play Rep. Getting a guaranteed proc of Divine Purpose just completely smooths out your rotation, makes it feel even beefier when you get straight into wings and you're dumping 2 finishers back to back. Wow, the burst is just like unparalleled. And then when you pop your wings, you get linked to all of your Dawn Lights. It's called Dawn Lights, right? You get linked to them all. Or is it Sunspots? I don't know. Who cares? You get linked to them all. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of like a quirky idea and impact on your gameplay where you actually sort of have to think about your positioning. Herald of the Sun, I'm going to place at the top of the B tier as well. We are going to go... It's just that Divine Purpose proc, man. That guaranteed Divine Purpose proc. That is what carries the Herald of the Sun. I love it. So we're going to put that up there. Right, so Mountain Thane, again, I forgot to place this one. We're going to put the Mountain Thane in the B tier. It's going to go above Slayer. I think Mountain Thane is probably the favorite out of these two. Yeah, definitely. So, with Felsguard, meta empowering all of your abilities could be insanely cool. They have so much potential with this hero talent. I also like the fact that it's a different amount of empowerments that you get depending on whether it's a demonic metamorphosis that you proc or the metamorphosis cooldown that you use. When you use your big meta, pretty much everything gets empowered. When you use your small meta, only a few things get empowered. It's such a small thing, but I love the fact that all the icons change when your abilities are empowered. One, that makes it obviously easy visual feedback as to what I've pressed that's empowered, but also it just looks kind of cool. What I wish they did, and they still have time to do, is abilities like I-Beam. It's sick that they're empowered, right? But imagine that your I-Beam turns a different color. Then you will know and you will feel that it is empowered. You can literally go with any color, I think. You go with a purple, fit the demonic or the demon hunter theme and class colors. I don't know. I just feel like there needs to be some visual feedback on the actual ability. That would be cool. Demon Surge looks amazing. When you proc your Demon Surge, especially from your Blade Dance, because you like zip zap around and then you land and that's when the Demon Surge goes off. That fits and flows perfectly in my opinion. So for Felsguard, I'm going to put this in the top of the C tier, I think. It's easily a B tier hero talent if you just change some of the visuals on the actual abilities themselves. Then we have the Aldrachi Reaver. Is it Aldrachi? Aldraki? I don't know. I've lost my notes for this one. I think this would have been the perfect opportunity for them to bake in the tier set from Dragonflight that everybody loves. This hero talent should be all about just firing out glaives left, right, and center. I think then you don't even necessarily need to make it empowered, because the empowered stuff that it gives you right now is so boring. It means that you're always locked into a specific rotation, where I think after your Reaver Glaive, you'd have to Chaos Strike into a Blade Dance every single time. Doesn't matter, regardless of the fight, regardless of the situation, that is what you're doing. And then you just get a turbo boring buff from the Thrill of the... It's not called Thrill of the Hunt, because that's the Hunter spell, but Thrill of the Fight, is it? Something like that. Super boring, super bland. Instead, throw out all these glaives left, right, and center. Get more soul rend damage, plays perfectly into the Havoc Demon Hunter. It's what everyone's loved from Dragonflight about the Havoc Demon Hunter. So yeah, super let down by Aldrachi Reaver. Yeah, I cannot believe that they didn't just go full glaive mode for this hero talent. Like, it was just the perfect opportunity to do that. With the Aldrachi Reaver, we're going to put this in the D tier. It's going to go above Wildstalker. It has some interaction with your gameplay. It does impact your rotation, so... The glaive does look cool as well. Although you're a Havoc Demon Hunter, so you're going to be in melee, the glaive's going to hit instantly, so you're really not going to see it that much. And last, but definitely not least, we have the Evoker. Scale Commander is definitely my favorite of the two out of these two. Mass Disintegrate, wow, what an unbelievable idea. Being able to just spew out those 3 beams of disintegration. And it's so frequent as well. It's triggered by your empowered abilities, and those empowered abilities are constantly getting reduced in cooldown by your causality talent. So you're seeing these mass disintegrates pretty much constantly. It's amazing. You're going to have it up for every single pack in dungeons. The theme of this hero talent is mega as well, being able to just like bombard your targets. And then I did not think Blizzard were going to cook this much at first, but seeing Drakthir actually fly over and past your targets, dropping bombs, you hear the bomb explosions as well. It's such a cool hero talent. I love this hero talent so much. And I don't like Evoker, so that is saying a lot. You get some nice synergy with Deep Breath as well, which works well for both specs. You get massive cooldown reduction on it. I'm pretty sure I was getting my Deep Breath down to like a 25-ish second cooldown. And you get some, and you proc extra damage as well from your Deep Breath. So you want to start with that. Just make sure that you cancel your Deep Breath if there's any cliffs surrounding you, because you don't want to be falling off like some people I know. Does the mass disintegrate? Does every single one of those disintegrates have a chance to proc scintillation? Because if that is the case, holy moly, that is absurd. That will be so cool. It does. Wow. Okay, that might have just gone up. That might have just made this hero talent go up in my estimations. That is cool. Imagine seeing 3 Eternity Surges fire off at the same time out of all of the disintegrates into your targets. So yeah, Scale Commander is a huge dub for me. I am enjoying this hero talent a lot right now, and I'm going to put it in the A tier. I'm going to put it quite high up the A tier as well. I'm going to put it behind... No, I'm going to put it... It's just slowly creeping up and up and up. I think what's holding it back for me is Deep Breath isn't my most favorite spell in the world, and it is quite heavily based off of that spell. I'd rather have my feet planted and do active damage than be like flying around. But we'll move on to Flame Shaper next. This gives ever so slightly, but it does give a little bit of depth to the Devastation Evoker, which is nice because you have to, for one, you talent into the Living Flame dot, so it's already changing up your gameplay a little bit with that. And then you're having to keep track of your active dots on the target to make Engulf do more damage. I love the fact as well, I thought, when I first read it, I thought Engulf was an AoE spell, but it's actually a single target spell, and they've incorporated AoE into it later with Consuming Flame, which blows up, I think it's a portion of your Fire Breath damage, right? And it just like incinerates everything around it. It does big damage as well. Not that damage matters. Also nice that it has 2 charges as well. It feels like you can like pretty much constantly use it and get big impact out of it inside your cooldowns. The only feedback that I could give about this hero talent is 1, prepare yourselves. This could be a hot take. Engulf should have a cast time. This could maybe be helped by the fact that if they bettered the animation for Engulf, because right now it's quite lackluster, and I think that harms the fact that it's instant cast as well, because you just kind of press it and nothing really happens except the damage goes up, you know? So you can either better the visuals for it, which I think is probably the better option here, or you could make it have a small cast time just so that you know you're charging up an Engulf and then like just dealing all of that damage, right? Or do both. Really enjoying Flame Shaper. It's definitely not as fun as the Scale Commander hero talent in my opinion. So I'm going to be putting the Flame Shaper in the B tier. It's going to go there, I reckon. Slap bang in the middle of the B tier. And then apparently I do have to rank the Chrono Warden talent as well. It is an Orc hero talent, so it'd be rude not to, wouldn't it? I just don't play Orc, and I have not played it on the beta. My good moderator has given me some notes about it. So Scale Commander really leans into the self-damage for Orc. Okay, that's nice. It's leaning away from just being OP and buffing up the rest of your group. It's now some more responsibility on yourself to do some more damage. Chrono Warden is the opposite and really leans into the support aspect of the Orc. Okay, not so sure I'm sold on that actually, because it's still the only support class in the game. And if it's OP, it's bloody OP. Yeah, having Blink on it though, replacing your hover with a Blink, that's a really nice quality of life change, and it just makes hover so much better. Plus, you get some damage reduction from the hover as well. Okay, that's nice, that's sweet. Tip has always felt like a non-button for Orc, but Temporal Burst changes that because it gives you haste and cooldown reduction when you press Tip the Scales. And then Golden Opportunity brings back the Prescience extension tier, which is a big win. Oh, I do remember that tier from Dragonflight. Okay, so that just means it's easier to keep up Prescience and maybe allows you to place it on a 3rd target. So Orc mains love it, but the rest of us hate Orc, so therefore it cannot go above the B tier. I'll place it. It sounds like it's pretty cool. For the Orc players, it does sound like it's got some nice touches to it. So we'll place it in the middle. I'm not going to place it above Flame Shaper. We'll place it next to it though, okay? So that is all of the hero talents ranked for DPS. I haven't played these 3 and I haven't played Chrono Warden, but we got some feedback from chat. That's all of them ranked against each other based on how fun they are. So the top 3, we've got Diabolist, Voidweaver, Frostfire, and then down the bottom, we've got a lot of specs. Dark Ranger, Aldrachi Reaver, Wildstalker, Keeper of the Grove, all of the rogue specs, Shadow Pan, and of course, Pack Leader, because that is hot garbage. There it is.